Welcome back. This is segment 1.1.
And during this segment, we're going to introduce you to the setup of this MOOC. We have designed 5 weeks for you that cover the essentials of the entrepreneurial process.
So let's review what we just discussed last time.
So we discussed what entrepreneurship is about. We talked about entrepreneurship as a process where you create value by bringing resources together.
And we also discussed the fact that it's not a new concept. Cantillon was discussing this already in the 17th century, thinking about Marco Polo's journey and some of the risks that he took, some of the innovation aspects. So it's been quite a long time that people have studied entrepreneurship.
And why it's so important nowadays is because it's one of a very liberating type of business concept. It's your imagination that sets the limits of what you can do, initially at least, because you can come up with new things, how to develop new products, ways to serve customers. So what you can imagine is actually the initial limit.
So we've chosen here 5 critical topics that we've put in chunks of 1 week each so that you have 5 pieces of the entrepreneurial process.
Exactly. So we start off with a more general discussion of what is entrepreneurship.
And then we move on in week 2 to identifying and evaluating business opportunities.
And then in week 3, we cover one of the core aspects of the entrepreneurship process, which is entrepreneurial marketing, because you need to attract customers for your venture.
And then we have in week 4 another core aspect, which is raising and managing money.
And then week 5, we talk about value capture, because you shouldn't only develop an innovation, but you should also be able to profit from that innovation.
Now, to enhance your learning experience in this course, we're also going to accompany our lectures and interviews with entrepreneurs with assignments and quizzes and participation in a forum.
And in addition, you're supposed to write a business concept proposal that summarizes your venture, what you are intending to do in your entrepreneurship process.
And then finally, we have a somewhat unique experience, which is we're going to have you participate in a real crowdfunding campaign.
So let's walk you through each of these weeks, with one slide each. So it's a very brief summary. So in week 1, as Chris just mentioned, we talk about what is entrepreneurship. We're going to sensitize you to the differences between different types of entrepreneurship and also the difference to normal management in that sense. If you look at the differences in entrepreneurship, you could say, well, there are more the technology-driven types of startups, and then there are more the self-employment type of entrepreneurial companies, where the former, the technology-driven ones, would have strong ambitions. They are often founded based on some kind of cool innovation, and create markets, while the self-employment entrepreneurship type would be more about replicating markets, copying what others have done, etc. Both, I think, are valid and important forms of entrepreneurship because they have important functions within the economy. But on the other hand, we needed to focus the MOOC on some type of ventures, which are the technology-driven ones. But that does not mean that the content would be only relevant for those.
I think that this could be useful for people who wanted a lifestyle business.
Exactly.
As well as those who really want to look more for a growth business.
Exactly. So both of these constituencies, these target groups, our MOOC would be relevant. So we invite you to understand these differences, because then you also know what are the particular challenges that you will be facing as an entrepreneur when you create one or the other type of venture.
So in a nutshell, in week 2, we're going to talk about evaluating and identifying opportunities. And here we're going to discuss a little bit about technology and how technology might be applied to different markets.
Exactly. And what we want you to understand is that markets have different characteristics. They present more or less fertile ground for firm creation. So actually this opportunity identification stage is a highly critical one, because you might identify more or less favorable environments for firm creation. And we're going to talk about this aspect, but we're also going to talk about how you can systematically improve your abilities to see good opportunities out there, which is a highly critical skill, I think. So in week 3, we're going to talk about entrepreneurial marketing, which is another critical aspect in your venture creation journey, because it's about creating a relationship with your customers, attracting their money, trying to sell the products to these few folks. And in order to understand entrepreneurial marketing in a systematic manner, you have to really differentiate between more the strategic type of decisions, which are my market segments, how should my customers perceive me in these market segments, and then differentiate that from the implementation issues, which would be more like the marketing mix, which type of pricing you do, which type of distribution channels you chose.
Right. I mean, as Peter Drucker said, the purpose of a business is to create a customer.
Exactly, and not creating just a product or technology, because you need to survive as your company and have to make these sales and have to grow your company by making even more sales. And entrepreneurial marketing is exactly about that.
You're going to have expenses to develop your products and services and do your marketing. So in week 4, we're going to talk about a very critical aspect of this, which is raising financing.
Exactly, and when you think about your expense that you have, it's cash outflows. And what happens if you cannot pay your bills? In your private life, in your company life, you go bankrupt. So in essence, the cash that you have in a company is like the air that you breathe. And what we will be talking about is like sources where you can get that air for your company to breathe.
Right, exactly. We're going to go through the different stages and talk about some different sources of financing at each stage. And one of those is going to be, again, the crowdfunding aspect of it. So we can think about the crowdfunding as being a potential boost to get a little bit of air there while you're starting your business.
And then we're already in week 5. The MOOC is short, we told you, because we're going to focus on the essentials. And in this week 5, we have another key element, which is profiting from your innovation. It's value capture. Because it's not given that you actually capture the value that you're creating. There are other parties out there, your customers, your employees, other people who want to have a share of the profit pie that you're creating. So you have to be smart in how to structure your deals, how you defend the pie or the share of the pie that should accrue to you.
Right. So what we'll do in this particular week is we will discuss protecting your ideas through intellectual property and other ideas. We will also talk about the capturing the value relative to your partners and how you make money relative to your partners. We'll think about legal liability and other legal issues.
And it's also about pivoting.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like if once you have to figure out, well, do I change my product a little bit here and that way to attract more?
You might be partway
response
through
in
your
the market?
idea, and then you might be testing it in the market and figuring out that no, actually that's not exactly quite the right market that I want, and I need to change a little bit. So thinking a lot about pivoting there is super important.
And then also about growing and scaling your venture. You have to grow, venture, attract additional customers. You have to scale it up to actually get most of the value that you potentially could create.
Right.
So
that's
that week 5 is highly critical, and it is basically, it's the final bracket, the end point, the milestone of the whole MOOC, because we want to have you there as a succeeding entrepreneur who also captures that value. Exactly. So by now you may ask yourself, is entrepreneurship actually for me? Is it for you a viable option, a viable choice for your life? And I think there's no definite answer. Some people actually know it, and say, I want to be an entrepreneur, while others say, okay, maybe,
I'm not sure.
And so we invite everyone to experience it, to try to understand what it means, because ultimately it's an important choice in your life. And if you think back in the ancient times, actually all of us were entrepreneurs. There were no such things as large organizations or governments we could work for. So entrepreneurship is in a way in us, but you need to find out whether it's actually so much in you that you actually want to engage in this activity. So think about, in a way, Tiger Woods. If we would never have held a golf club, he would never have understood that this is actually a sport that he can do.
Right, we're in Switzerland, so think about Roger Federer, for
Exactly.
example. He didn't pick up a tennis racket.
He would have never known. So in that sense, we really invite you to also experience entrepreneurship in these early stages, learn about it, and ultimately try to understand, is this an activity that is fun to you, fulfills your life, and a career choice?
So there are some practicalities for participating in the MOOC, and Netra is going to walk you through those in more detail later this week. But just to give you the overview of that aspect of it, there's going to be participation in assignments, quizzes. We have online fora that you can pose questions.
We also have Q&A sessions each week. We probably cannot answer all the questions you tweet to us or you post in the forum, because there could be many questions. But from our experience, they cluster around some particular topics, and we will be discussing these topics with you during these weeks.
So we'll participate in online office hours, and we will create panels that are tailored to the discussions we're having and the questions that we're receiving. In addition to that, we're also going to have you develop, as we mentioned before, a business concept proposal, and as Mark just mentioned recently, there's going to be a crowdfunding campaign.
So this is what this course is about. We designed it for you. We look forward to being with you in the next 5 weeks. So welcome.
Welcome.